Welcome you both.
Hey, thank you, Arlen. We're really excited to share this presentation with everyone. And hopefully at the end of the presentation, everybody can come away with some resources, tools, and maybe a little bit more knowledge about how school counselors, administrators, and teachers can collaborate together for the success of students. The main reason we kind of decided to do a presentation like this is one, to kind of advocate for the school counseling profession, but to also share some of the resources that are out there that people may not know about, and that we can use in our professions to help students, which is ultimately what we're in this profession for. So we'll go ahead and move to our next slide. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Patrick Wildman. I am a school counselor. I currently work in Beardstown, Illinois. I'm in my 8th year as a school counselor. I'm also a solo counselor working with grades 5 through 12. I am co-chair of the ISCA Advocacy Committee, which works for the Illinois School Counselor Association to advocate on behalf of the profession on the state level, also on a school level as well by doing presentations like this and other activities. I'm also the ISCA board chair. Sorry, our bells are ringing. And so I act kind of as a runner for the executive board for our state association. And I will turn over to Jessica to introduce herself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jessie Vargas. I am a high school counselor currently at Solorio Academy on the southwest side of Chicago. Been a counselor now for 13 years. I started off my career as a solo counselor, just like my co-chair here, but I am now part of a team. Oh, and I am the co-chair, ISCA Advocacy co-chair.
All right. And then Jessica, do you want to kind of give us a rundown of what our targets are for the presentation today?
Sure. Yes. So sorry, I'm getting over a cold. So for today, we want to spend some time talking about the role of the school counselor, understanding what it is that we do. Want to learn a little bit more about our training and our background, the scope of our practice, and most importantly, learning how we can work together with others in the building to impact student outcomes. And so we hope that today you are able to take away some core components in successful school counselor and administrator relationships in your building.
Thank you. And we understand some of this for our counselors in the building, or our counselors on the presentation may be a little bit repetitive. You may already know some of this stuff, but we feel it doesn't hurt to give a little background on some of the things we'll talk about. So we all kind of have a base knowledge of what some of the topics are that we will discuss. So one of the things that we wanted to bring up was the work of ISCA, and ISCA stands for the Illinois School Counselors Association. We represent roughly 2/3 of the school counselors in Illinois. Our membership is around 2,100 working professionals. And our mission is essentially to ensure that all Illinois students have equitable access to a licensed school counselor, no matter where they live in the state, and to ensure maximum impact on student achievement. Some of our goals and some of the achievements we've been able to afford is we're working towards the recommended 250 to 1 school counselor student ratio, sorry. That is a national recommendation. And so currently, I think we stated elsewhere in the presentation, currently Illinois is, I believe, 5th in the nation in terms of ratio. So we're working to improve that. We're also working to educate administrators on appropriate versus inappropriate activities of school counselors. One of our achievements last year in the spring, in the last General Assembly session in 2024, we were able to revise the school code for school counselors. And so that had not been updated in almost a decade. And so we were able to work with ISB to get that updated to be more inclusive of what a school counselor is in the second part of the 21st century here. And so we're very proud to get those revisions done. And we also provide consultation and support as an association to school counselors, administrators. And then we also help to curate professional development, such as presentations like this. So now I'll turn it over to Jessica for kind of starting the meat of our topics here.
Yeah, so actually, Patrick, I think this is you.
Oh, you were correct. I apologize. We went over all this. I have two screens open. So something that I believe that is kind of a bit of an advocacy point on our side is just the role of the school counselor and how that has changed over the past few decades. We all kind of know the term guidance counselor. I know that's what I grew up with in high school some 20 years ago. But that has really changed in the past couple decades in terms of what we are as professionals and what we can do as professionals. So back in the day, guidance counselors were they kind of were in their offices, students went to them, they helped with academics and college and career, and social emotional, SEL, those types of duties were not really at what a guidance counselor typically did. And they're more reactive. Situations would happen and they try to put that fire out. Not saying that we don't do that currently in our profession. We can all probably think of situations where most of our day is putting out fires, but that is not what a school counselor is anymore. And so typically a school counselor is proactive. They're in the classroom doing SEL lessons, academic lessons. They're leaders. They're involved in building leadership teams. They're involved in advisory councils.
America, please come to the office. America, to the front office.
And their services are available to all. I think that's one thing that we try to advocate for as school counselors to our administrators, especially, is that our services are available to everyone, not just a certain set of students, not to a certain caseload. Even though some schools may have, their teams may have it split out by grade level alphabet. But our services are available to all. If a student comes in my office, I'm not going to turn them away because they're not in that grade that I'm in particular advisor of. So one thing I wanted to show, and this is a resource available on ASCO's website, which is the National Association. Ooh, it opened in its tape. And so this is something we can, if you guys want to email us, we have our contact at the end of the presentation. This is kind of a one-pager that explains what the difference is between a guidance counselor and a school counselor and gives a little bit more background on that terminology and kind of where things are at currently. And so all of that stuff comes from our National Association, which helps with our advocacy piece. Get back there. Okay. Okay. And then Jessica.
Yes. Okay. So how does one become a school counselor? So we are master's level professionals. So we do earn a master's degree in school counseling. As part of that degree, we complete extensive coursework in areas like human development, counseling theories, ethics. In addition to the coursework, we also complete supervised practicum and internship experiences. From my understanding, most programs is about 700 hours, with 100 hours being practicum and 600 hours being internship. I think that's still, if we have any recent graduates in here. In this setting, in this way, we're able to get some of those, apply some of those skills directly in the setting under the supervision of another school counselor. As a site supervisor myself, currently, I can attest to how important this piece is. It's one thing to learn about the profession from a textbook and another to apply it and actually see what it's like in person, especially in a setting that you're interested in working in. Depending on where it is that you decide that you want to work, if you're going to be in a more urban setting or in a rural setting, it's important to have that face-to-face interaction. Counselors also meet state certification and licensure requirements, which include passing standardized exams and completing any other type of certification. So this highlights how important it is for counselors to be utilized the way they're supposed to be utilized, because they have specific skills for what they're doing, right? So we're not just coming in with random background credentials. Like, we're trained specifically to be school counselors, to work with students and the 3 different domains, right? We have academic, social, emotional, and post-secondary. Next slide. Okay. And so we don't just work with students individually. We follow structured program delivery models. And the most common model, right, is our ASCA model, the American School Counselor Association framework. So with this framework, we do direct student services. So things like individual counseling, small group counseling, classroom lessons. We do indirect services where we collaborate with teachers, families, community partners. So what does it look like? So what can a comprehensive program look like when there is an adequate 250-to-1 ratio? We're able to do all these things. We're able to provide the direct services. We're able to do collaboration. If in order for us to really help students and others in the building, we need to make sure that our time is being utilized correctly. So it's one of those things where it's like, we want to be able to help, and then also to demonstrate the work that we're doing. Okay, so another part of the program is program management and planning. So where we use data to design, deliver, and improve our services. And so school counseling programs, they're comprehensive, data-driven, and designed to meet the academic, career, and social emotional needs of all of our students. Can you go to the next one? All right, so one of the examples of a high-quality school counseling program is to get the RAMP designation. RAMP designation, which stands for the Recognized ASCA Model Program, so recognition through the American School Counselor Association. Schools that earn RAMP have shown or have demonstrated that their counseling programs are fully aligned with the ASCA national model and are producing meaningful results for students. So in order to be able to even achieve RAMP, counselors must demonstrate how they use data to design, implement, and evaluate their programs. They also show how they are supporting academic achievement, improving attendance, promoting positive behavior, and helping students with college and career readiness. So this process is not easy. It's not for the weak. It is a rigorous application process, and it's nationally recognized. It's when fully supported by administration, it's a great example of what a school counseling program should look like, should be. So recently, thankfully, at my school, we were able to get re-ramped this year. Shout out to anybody out there who also was able to get ramped this year, if you're on this call. And it is not an easy process. And honestly, I don't think that it would have been possible without the support of my administration. I am on a team of 5. We have about 1,200 students at our school. So we are closer in line with the recommended 250-to-1. But with that being said, there's still some other things which we'll get into a little bit more later. But as far as getting the RAMP recognition, our administrators see the value in being able to say that, we do have a fully comprehensive program that addresses the student holistically. We were able to advocate to get time away from the building to work on our RAMP application. We were able to present the information to the staff so that they understood why it is important that we have this time to work on RAMP and to work on our program development. So we've been very blessed to be able to do that. But again, it wouldn't have been possible without the support of our admin, because it is a challenge to get this completed.
Yeah, I'm saying one thing to highlight, Illinois does kind of lead the nation in the number of ramp schools. So that does go a long way to showcase the level of professionalism and abilities of our school counselors in the state. So I just wanted to highlight that number. So. Okay, so kind of here we kind of get into the meat of that administrator-counselor relationship. As Jessica alluded to, ramping her school would not have been possible, or it would have been a lot harder without the support of her admin. And so when we look at that administrator-counselor, even teacher-counselor relationship, in how we perceive each other's jobs and the duties that we have, that's kind of what we'll be talking about with the remainder of our presentation. And so I kind of look at this first question on the very top here. As an administrator, how do you build trusted teams? And you shouldn't feel isolated or prefer to work in an environment such as that. School counselors, we're not administrators, but we're not teachers. And so we kind of are in that middle zone, middle area where it can feel easy sometimes to feel isolated, especially if you don't think people understand what you do on a daily basis. There are times where I've heard teachers say, well, do they just sit in their office all day? There's a reason why I'm in there. And it goes with administrators as well. I mean, sometimes administrators have their own tasks, counselors have their own tasks, and teachers have their own tasks. And it's hard to come together and to ensure that what the admin is doing is affecting what a counselor is doing, is affecting what a teacher is doing, and so on and so forth. Because there are a lot of decisions at the admin level that we as school counselors and then on down to teachers, it affects everybody. And so we need to be aware of kind of what we're doing, where we're at in our programs and things like that. So those are the types of things we'll talk about, in addition to some resources that are out there to kind of help guide that relationship, especially if you may need some structure to help get that started, or maybe even provide structure to something you may already have. So a strong counselor-principal relationship involves friendly, mutually respectful working relationship. I have found, especially being able to trust each other as professionals. As Jessica said, we have a lot of training in our fields. We're very specialized. We know what we're doing, for lack of a better phrase. And so we just got to be able to trust each other to know kind of what we're doing and be able to work together in that respectful way. I can share a story from my own school. We've gone through a revolving door of administrators over the past few years. And so I've been here long enough where I've kind of been through some of those. But there's been a night and day kind of based on who is the lead administrator, who's our principal. Past 3 years, we've had a different principal that has made working here in terms of that professional relationship a lot better. I feel trusted as a professional, as a school counselor. And so I know that they'll have my back when I need to make a decision. They'll come to me if they have any questions about something they may think involves my job, instead of just making decisions and then coming in later and saying, hey, I did this, I need you to do that. And we also share values and beliefs related to the purpose of education. Ultimately, it's the students. So any decision we make, what are we doing on behalf of the students? And once you can get those shared values and beliefs, it really makes that relationship a lot stronger. Open and honest communication and regular meetings. When I first started, we did have a weekly meeting set up with our principal where my myself and my colleague, we would go in once a week. We would kind of talk about what's going on in our department, a department of two. And so, and then that kind of, COVID came, of course, and so we were in school and things kind of fell by the wayside. But we may not have regular meetings, but I know I can call, I can email, I can even just walk down the hallway to his office or my principal's office and just ask a question if he's in there. So I know I have that trust and relationship. And then responsibility for planning to meet school goals. This year, our school implemented a district strategic plan. Our middle school, high school has certain goals that they need to reach based on student data, goals that they identified in terms of dual credit classes, AP classes, more emphasis on STEM options and things like that. And so working with the administration, both our principal and our curriculum director, who is a new position this year, I've been and be able to be in on those planning meetings because ultimately, I mean, I make the master schedule. And so being able to know, okay, what type of classes do we need to offer? How can we structure that? How are we going to put students in there? What students would be good in those classes, looking at their test scores, but also them as people and who have passions and who have interests. So being able to plan and do those jointly is vitally important. Instead of a top-down type of relationship, being more of a circle community where everybody kind of has that voice and all going towards the same responsibility. So Jess, I don't know if you had any examples of your own administration relationship.
Yes, I would definitely say that the administrative conference at the beginning of the year is super important to just kind of get on the same page about what the year would look like. We do a beginning of year student survey as well as an end of year student survey. So we come back with that information and just kind of use that to guide our plan for the following year by being transparent with our administrator and letting them know like, hey, this is what the numbers are showing. This is what we would like to do in terms of classroom lessons, in terms of small groups. These are the types of supports that we're going to need. Just kind of getting that early on, so that they're aware, moving forward when it comes down to certain other newer things, right? Unfortunately, we do still get tasked with doing things like test coordination, but for the most part, this is kind of helping us get to a point where it's like, okay, if that's the only non-counseling duty that we have to do, then okay, we'll work towards that. But like, being able to demonstrate, this is kind of like the work that we've done and what we still want to achieve, can kind of give a little bit more buy-in. So definitely having those conferences in the beginning, bringing that information with you. We have regular meetings with our admin in terms of just kind of looking over our framework, almost kind of like touch points. Like this is where we are with this specific task or this specific goal. Just to kind of make sure we're still en route to accomplish that. And then, we also invite our admin to come to like BHT meetings, for example, so they get to hear about what we're working on with our small groups or with our community partners. And ultimately, we want our administrators to know that, we're in full support of what, of their goals as well. And we just want to, make sure that we are in line with those goals and also, protecting our time with students, because we want to make sure that we are able to do all of these things, with our students. And so that open communication, that trust is super important.
Yeah, especially. And one thing to keep in mind is that this relationship, it varies. I mean, not only based on your school environment, Jessica's environment with 1,200 kids and 5 counselors versus mine with 800 and myself, essentially. That's a much different environment in terms of a school counselor. So, and it's also different when you have various numbers of administrators. Some schools may have I don't know, maybe what, 7 or 8, I don't know. Some bigger schools can have a lot of administrators. So kind of detecting, okay, who is the administrator that's going to be over my department, and who can I go to? Like I said, my principal's literally right down the hall from me. I can go to him anytime I want to. He stops in my office, I stop in his office. So there's really never anything we don't talk about. And so having that formal meeting may be good for some people, depending on how they see that, or they could have more of an informal relationship. And that just kind of develops over time, depending on what your administration is like. Some of the things to look at kind of when you're looking at that relationship, and what to keep track of, and how administrators can support counselors, are really some of these questions. What is occurring for your school counselors? And as Jessica said, with the opening survey that they take at the beginning of the year, that kind of provides some detail for them to show, okay, what's going to be our primary focus this year. But also maybe this past week has been one fire after another, one crisis after the other. There are some weeks where it can be relatively quiet. I always think back to like ER and some of those hospital shows. They always say never to say the Q word, because you say that and then ultimately something goes wrong. And so, but there are some days, there's a couple, 2 or 3 days, where you may have students in your office just every single hour, every single day, and it's just one crisis after the other that you have to put out. And so as an administrator, being aware of that and saying, hey, what do you guys need from me? How can I support you during this week that has been very draining? Because being a counselor can be very draining on a person, especially when you're trying to be empathetic to a student or a parent or family. That can burn people out pretty quickly if they don't have those supports or those self-helps with that. So, and then has anything changed? So maybe there's a staff change that year and the team's trying to figure out a new dynamic. That can also affect how effective being a school counselor can be. And then we'll get to some of the other things as we look at some of the inappropriate and appropriate duties. But also looking at to what degree are the school counselors at your district providing direct services or indirect services? As Jessica's mentioned, test coordination. I am technically our district test coordinator. I coordinate our Illinois Assessment of Readiness, our Illinois Science Assessment, our ACT, both the national and the state level. I coordinate our DLM. And so the month of April was pretty crowded when it came to testing. And so that took away time from students, because there were times I may not have been in my office, or I may have been running around the building trying to get tests started and all those sorts of things. So being able to look and see at how are your counselors utilizing their time effectively? Then ultimately, how are the goals of your school counseling program informed, and how is that data used? So, Jessica, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
No. I was going to say that, did you know you do not need a master's degree to coordinate tests?
No, you do not. No, it can be technically any educator, yes.
Please come to the office. Raylan, to the office.
Sometimes I feel like you need a master's degree, though. Sometimes they don't make it very easy for that type of stuff. But and then the last one, maximizing the potential of school counselors. I just want to kind of bring up the changes in the school code. So you can kind of see some of the changes that we made. This is kind of more of one, a knowledge for our school counselors on there as an advocacy piece, but also for administrators to kind of know, okay, this is what ISB or Illinois State School Code now says about what a comprehensive and effective school counseling program should be. So you can see the green stuff is the stuff that we added. So for instance, we put in there that school counselors should be designing and delivering a comprehensive school counseling program through standards-based, data-informed program, which is what we said at the beginning. All of our professional activities are data-informed and should be data-informed. And some of the things we took out, you'll notice there wasn't a lot of changes. One of the things this may look interesting by intentionally addressing the career and college needs of first generation students. One of the things that we mentioned earlier is that our service is available to all students. And so that applies to everyone, regardless of whether they're first generation or everyone in their family has been to college and has a degree. We also added changes in there for undocumented students. Because again, our service is available to everyone, regardless of their citizenship status. So if you'd like a copy of this, you can email us with the information we have at the end of the presentation, or you can search it on ISB's website, and it should be up there with the Illinois school code for that. So. Jessica, will you lead us off on this one?
Yeah, so just some more resources for you to use or to share with administrators. So one of the important ones being the ASCA recommended roles. I don't think, Patrick, I don't think the links are working correct. I don't think we're able to open it.
Did it show up? I can't tell. I think mine showed up. Is it showing up on the screen?
I don't see it on my end over here. So I'm sure when this gets sent out, people will be able to click on the various links, and you'll be able to take a look at some of these resources. So the ASCA recommended roles. We'll look at specific ones for elementary level and middle school level or high school level. The appropriate versus inappropriate duties as well. You know, as school counselors, we are responsible for, you know, those three domains, right? Our academic domain, our social emotional, and post-secondary. And that in and of itself is a lot. So that leaves very little room for other things, especially things that are not in line with what we do. So okay, so Tara, I see that there was a question on there about post-secondary development. So post-secondary development, meaning helping students create a plan for themselves for when they finish high school, for whether that be to go off, you know, to continue education, to go off to study, if you're going to go and get a bachelor's or an associate's even. Maybe it's to go into the military, or maybe you want to just go straight into the workforce, and, you know, helping you kind of think about the types of skills you're going to need, the types of, you know, just basically how do we help it gets you to a place where when after you graduate and you no longer have the supports of your school, that you're able to kind of go and find these supports yourself, and you're able to advocate for yourself, and you're able, you know, to make those decisions. So it looks different for everybody. Not everybody's going to go and do the same route, right? We talk to, at least at my school, we talk to our kids about pathways, right? Because not everybody wants to go to a four-year school. Sorry, motion censored. So yeah, so post-secondary development is helping our students with a plan, or with a plan to for them for after they graduate.
I think that's one of the changes over the past couple of decades from guidance counselor to school counselors, that trying to get that, I guess, stigma away that everybody needs to go to college. Everybody needs to go to a four-year school. Everybody needs to do this, that. But no, as school counselors, we need to meet our students where they're at. And if a student doesn't want to go to get a four-year degree and they have an interest somewhere else, then that's where we support them at. And that's where we give them the resources to help plan that. I'm in a unique position, at least in my since I work in a 5 through 12 building, I can kind of help students starting all the way back in middle school. And so for my 8th graders, we have a careers class that we do. It's a quarter-based class. So I go in once every quarter, and I do a little activity with them that helps them look at different jobs that are available. And it shows them what their education level would need to be, what their average income could be expected. And I mainly started doing this because I had gotten I had read some research that a lot of graduates, a lot of high school graduates, and even college graduates, vastly overestimate their starting salaries. And so they're choosing these jobs because they think they're going to make $120,000 a year. And they take out student loans and all these things to get the degree, but then they get their intro job and they're making half as much. And so I kind of went to my careers teacher and said, hey, can I come in and do this activity? Maybe expose these kids to some more data driven information. And all the data I get from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So it's as accurate as I can get. And so we kind of go through an activity, and I kind of explain to them what the different levels of education are and things like that. So kind of gives them a starting glance before they get into high school and start down those pathways, as Jessica said, to kind of figure out, okay, maybe I want to be a construction. So just different aspects and exposing to that are a lot of things, at least as I like to do, and get back into the classroom as a school counselor. So. And so these are some of the tools that we have. Sorry, getting bells ringing. Some tools that we have and some forms that you guys can use. One of the ones I want to point out, or a couple I want to point out, is this top one is cultivating trust. This is actually a self-evaluation for administrators, for principals in particular, that they can take, and it helps them to understand, or helps them to maybe understand themselves as administrators, and to maybe take a reflection as to who they are as administrators and educators, and so that they can see maybe where they need to improve at, or where their strengths are at. And then ASCA also has a template for the annual counselor principal conference, which typically takes place at the beginning of the school year, to get an idea of what that school year will look like, and get an idea of how the program will function that year. So there's an actual template out there that can be used for that meeting, or you can make your own. It really kind of all depends, up to you. And there's also an article that is linked as well, that gives some more step-based and data-based information on how to collaborate effectively. Okay, and Jessica, I think I'm going to take us away.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes. So some of our key takeaways from today. So again, school counselors, we are highly trained student support personnel. We are not administrative assistants. We are not just, random bodies in the building. We work across all grade levels to support the academic, career, and social emotional development of our students. And we are leaders. We are the pulse of our school. We are a resource for both administrators and teachers. We can offer data, insights, strategies for everyone in the community. And we are, we serve every student. That's the biggest thing here is we work with every single student, regardless of, whether they are part of a specific group, like, a student with an IEP or 504. Like, we work with everybody. We work with all students, because our goal is to make sure that our students are supported, and that they are prepared for what's to come after school, after high school.
Okay, and now we'll open up to questions. So Arlen, I don't know if anybody submitted other questions, or anybody who wants to ask a question, they can raise their hand.
Oh, Tara's got her hand raised. I'm going to allow Tara to talk. Tara, you should be able to unmute yourself with the microphone icon. You got it.
I did. I had typed it in. I wanted to know, would you mind clarifying how a school counselor is different from a school dean?
That's a good question because I know in Springfield, District 186, I believe, I live in Springfield. And so I believe they have school deans, but they don't have school counselors. Um, we currently have a school dean here as well. And so, at least in my experience, and Jessica, you can clarify that too if you need. They're more of the administrator discipline type, at least from my experiences with them. But typically, a dean wouldn't have the same type of training as a licensed school counselor would.
Thank you.
Yes, and we work very closely with our deans, especially when it comes to like restorative practices. They would do they would facilitate like a mediation if it's more like discipline restorative versus like social emotional, or sometimes we'll like collaborate and we'll you know help each other out and do both. But yes, it's more so very like discipline, like, you know, whereas we can come in and offer another layer of support. But yeah.
There was a question from, let's see, who was it? Valerie. Do you also include the time for employing restorative practices, groups, and communicating with community partners for our most at-risk students?
I would say yes to that, if we can find time in the school day. I know not every school has a schedule that is set up to provide a dedicated time. So,
and Warren, please come to my office right now.
And so if there is time, we do, like Jessica said, we do group work, we do individual counseling. So yes, and I know for a fact when I first started, our social worker and I worked really well together. Because before I started at my current school, the mental health aspects with the school counselor was not well utilized. And so when I started, I tried to change that. And so yes, establishing kind of that restorative practices and the groups and also individually has been something I've worked with our current social workers to try to implement. So.
Thank you for that, Patrick. And Jada asked, is the term school counselor synonymous with school social worker?
I think it depends on who you ask.
Yes, but I would say no.
Yeah.
We have two totally separate types of training, two totally separate degrees. And so ISCA actually created a little Venn diagram. The advocacy committee did actually that we give to legislators to explain the difference between school counselors, school social workers, school psychologists, and those other support personnel. So.
Yes, because we see that a lot with legislators, where they always ask us that question, what is the difference between a school counselor and a school social worker? So we do have to go over that with them, and even people in our building, right? You know, some people, you know, teachers or even families, or they might not like still understand the difference. But while we both work with students, we both are very important in a school. We do have different credentials. We do have different specialized skills or areas of focus.
Excellent. And then Holly just made the comment that in my building, whoops, where did it go? We have a guidance dean, and she's in charge of what I consider the old school guidance, transcripts, scheduling, but she does teach MS SEL classes, but does not have individual or group counseling.
It's that mental health component that really sets us apart from kind of the old school, as Holly said, guidance curriculum. Most of my training in my master's program was the mental health aspect, providing that one-on-one group support. And like she said underneath that we do have career training and things like that. So it is a very separate training aspect from social workers and other fields.
And Valerie's had a quick comment that said, "Thank you, as I think your expertise fits well in terms of working with these at-risk youth and community partners as you address the future, including staying in schools." That was a nice comment from Valerie.
I kind of want to piggyback off of that comment as well. We all have students that sometimes aren't as successful in school as we would want them to be due to various reasons. Some of them may be out of their control. And so I think to bring this back to kind of collaborating with administrators, kind of helping them point out those students and working together. For instance, we have some alternative placements available to us, and being able to work with administration and parents and everything to make sure that those students, if they are a good fit for those alternative placements, getting them to those to the best place they need to be, because sometimes the environment where they're at is not the best, and finding something else that would be better is a great way to collaborate amongst all of us.
Here's a question from Karen. She says, "I felt sometimes, but not always, that teachers were made aware of issues with students. Are they at suicide risk? Was there a recent death in the family, etc.? These can really trigger a student. Should their teachers not have a meeting and be made aware of these triggers?"
That is a tricky question. The part and parcel for our profession is confidentiality. So the only time we would break confidentiality is kind of the situation that you brought up in terms of a suicide risk, or whether they are harm to themselves or others. And so typically that goes to the family. We tell the family. So you're right. Ultimately, sometimes we can't tell teachers or other things, just based on that confidentiality piece. Jess, I don't know if you have any other viewpoint on that.
I think it's really important to have the students kind of like lead that in a way where whatever they are comfortable with sharing, if there's any information that they feel comfortable sharing with the teacher in terms of like the trigger, right? Like this question here. That could be helpful for both the teacher and a student, right? To know when something's about to be triggering. Maybe I just give my teacher like a sign, or like, a quick tug of the ear that I need to see my counselor, so that, I'm not blowing up in class when in the middle of a lesson. But I think, typically when I'm across an issue like this, I do talk to the student about any type of information they're comfortable with sharing, just so that, they understand that the support doesn't just end when they leave my office, but it is throughout the entire school, throughout the entire, in all their classes with other teachers. So I'll ask sometimes if a student wants to have either a meeting with myself and the teacher, or, if they just want me to send a quick little note saying, if you notice that so-and-so is not looking well today, please give them a pass to come see me. But yeah, it's difficult because of the confidentiality. But I think if you frame it in a way where it's like, we're just trying to figure out like, how to best support the student without calling them out, and have the student play a role in that, figuring out what they're comfortable with, I think, that could be very helpful.
All right, wonderful. Thanks for that advice. Any other final questions or comments as we round out the webinar here this afternoon? Still got a few minutes left with Patrick and Jessica, so always welcome for any additional questions. And just as a reminder, okay, Holly's got a question. Do you guys see that in there?
Yes, yeah, and like I said, I've done similar things to what Jess said and what Holly have done too. Like, I provide the basic information. Just basically say this, like Jess said, is this person not feeling well? Just kind of give them a little extra grace today, if they need to see me. So yeah.
Okay, Patrick, do you have contact information you would be willing to share with
Yes, I
our
do.
audience here this afternoon?
There we go.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, if they
There
want
you
any
go.
of
One
those attached.
email address, and that'll, Patrick, I'm assuming you and Jessica both have access to that or can share that with each other.
Yes.
Oh, and one final question from Jada. I will be a new principal at an elementary school, pre-K through 8 in July, and just wondering what would be the best advice you have for me as a new K-8 principal.
I guess just seek out your staff, whether you have a social worker or a school counselor, or whoever your kind of your support personnel and teachers are, and just kind of establish those relationships early. And then, like we said, kind of know what their background is, where they're coming from, especially if you're the new administrator coming in and you've had people who have been there for a while. It can be tough to kind of reestablish that team dynamic that's been there, that's kind of interrupted, but seek out those relationships early and get them established and kind of hear what they have to say and where they see things going that school year.
Excellent. Well, Jessica, did you have anything to add?
No, I think just, definitely, just get to know your counselor. They are going to be a very, very important part of your building. They, again, are the pulse of the school. So definitely get in touch with your school counselor.
All right, and Karen mentions you'll be sending us some info, also correct. Not aware of the amount of internship and practicum hours, heavily trained and obviously a valuable asset. Thank you for continually updating standards, the info on your time.
Yeah,
And congratulations, yes, to Jada on the new role. That's terrific.
Now, say, Arlen, is our presentation going out to everyone, or is it just the recording?
I will send out the recording, and depending upon, it's up to you whether you want me to send out the slides as well.
I mean, the link should still be active, so I don't see an issue with sending out the presentation.
Okay.
Slides.
Yeah, I can convert it to a PDF, so it's just not editable. It's just the slides themselves.
Okay, that works.
Okay, well, thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Jessica, so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise with our great group of participants that we had here this afternoon. I will be processing the webinar recording and getting that out to everyone tomorrow morning, as well as the ISB evaluation form for PD clock hours. Lots of thank yous coming into the chat for you, Patrick and Jessica. So be aware to take a look at those. And I'll be sending out everything tomorrow morning that you will need. And so I'm going to stop the recording.